families seeking shelter resorting to pitching tents in South Brisbane.
Prices have climbed so much that it now takes the average Australian buyer around 10 years to save a 20% deposit for a medium-priced home.
Australia, the lucky country, a paradise of sunshine, safe cities, and high salaries. But this paradise is becoming a prison. Today, in the streets of Sydney and Melbourne, nurses are sleeping in their cars. Teachers cannot afford to rent a room. Families are living in tents. This is not a headline from a poor nation. This is Australia in 2025. The country is collapsing, but it's not the crash you see in movies. It's a quiet collapse that is happening right now. The question is, how did the world's wealthiest nation end up here? The answer is not just shocking. It is a warning for all of us.
Then just yesterday, we spoke to a family in New South Wales, a family of 6. They're preparing to sleep in a tent as they face eviction this week.
For over a decade, TJ's been an emergency nurse at Stanford Hospital.
But you can't afford to live in this area.
Absolutely not.
You heard that right. Nurses sleeping in cars. This isn't a rare event. It's the new dark reality of Australia. In 2024 and 2025, reports show that every single month, 10,000 new people are asking for homeless services. This is a 9% jump in just 3 years. But these are not the people you think. These are the working homeless. These are the essential workers who keep the country running. The aged care worker who looks after your grandmother. The teacher who educates your children. They have a job, they work hard, but they can no longer afford the single most basic human need, a roof.
The latest PropTrack housing affordability report indicates the median income household earning $112,000 can afford only 14%.
In cities like Sydney, the situation is called impossible. The average house price is now 14 times the average salary. This means it would take a normal person 70, 80, or even 100 years to save enough to buy a house. It is a never problem. This isn't a market, it's a fantasy. The dream of owning a home in Australia is dead for an entire generation.
But prices in Australia are now rising at their fastest rate in 4 years, with Sydney, Brisbane, Adelaide and Perth hitting record highs.
So you might be thinking, this is a giant bubble. When will it crash? If it crashes, prices will fall. Young people can finally buy a home. This is what everyone is waiting for. But here is the terrifying part. The crash you are waiting for is not coming. This is the great Australian lie. Here is the simple reason. A price crash only happens when many people are forced to sell their homes at the same time. But the Reserve Bank of Australia, RBA, ran a doomsday test. They asked, what if house prices suddenly fall by 30%? Here is what they found. 9 out of 10 homeowners in Australia will not be forced to sell. Why? Even after a 30% drop, their house is still worth more than the loan they owe the bank. Since they are not losing money, they don't panic. They just hold on and keep paying. If nobody is forced to sell, there is no flood of cheap homes. And if there are no cheap homes for sale, the prices cannot collapse. This is the real nightmare. The market will not reset. The prices will not fall low enough to help young people. The only thing that crashes is the quality of life for everyone. The house prices stay high, but the people break. The society breaks. So if the bubble isn't bursting, what is causing all this pain? The first reason is the most simple and the most frightening. There are simply no houses.
Government this week laid out a plan to build an extra 1.2 million homes in the next 5 years to 2029.
Australia is not building. The government knows this is a crisis. They made a big promise. We will build 1.2 million new homes in 5 years. It was a great political message. There was just one problem. It was a lie. The government's own official advisors, the National Housing Supply Council, said this is impossible. They reported that Australia will not build 1.2 million homes. They will build maybe 943,000. This is a gap of over 250,000 homes. 250,000 homes that were promised will never exist. Think about that. The country is already full. The rental market is a war zone, and the government just admitted the problem is about to get much, much worse. News report of construction slowdown and building company bankruptcies. Construction companies are going bankrupt. The cost of materials is too high. There are not enough workers. They cannot build faster. In 2023, the number of new homes built fell to its lowest level in 10 years. They are not building, they are collapsing. But a shortage of houses was only the first part of the disaster. Someone decided to pour gasoline on the fire.
Rents have increased by 33% in regional areas over the last 10 years and 25% in capital cities. This is putting a huge crisis, effectively, on housing affordability.
In the last year, Australia's population exploded. The country added 446,000 new people. This is almost double the number from before the pandemic. It's like adding a new city every single year to a country that has no homes.
So we're now down to a rental vacancy of about 1%, which makes it very difficult to begin with.
Where did these people go? They went straight into the rental market. In many cities, the rental vacancy rate fell below 1%. 1% means there is nothing. It means 100 people line up to see one tiny apartment. It means landlords can charge whatever they want. And it means the people at the bottom, students, young workers, and single parents, are pushed out. First from their apartment, then to a tent, then to their car. This is not a debate about immigration. This is a math problem. The population grew faster than the country could build. And this simple math is breaking the Australian society. But why? Why does this keep happening? Why do prices only go up? Why do rich investors keep buying houses even when nurses can't? The answer is not an accident. It is a plan. It is a rigged game hidden inside Australia's tax system.
Negative gearing should be curtailed, in particular by denying it for new investors.
The union's suggestion is to keep the tax breaks for current landlords as they are for 5 years, meaning they can continue to get an income tax discount on rental properties that make a loss.
In Australia, the government gives a special reward to rich people who buy houses. It's called negative gearing. This sounds complicated, but it's a very simple, very dirty trick. Here is how it works. Imagine you are an investor. You buy a second house. The money you get from rent is less than the cost of your loan. You are losing money. This is a negative investment. In most countries, this would be a bad idea. But in Australia, the government gives you a prize. You can take that loss and subtract it from your main job's salary. This means you pay less tax. The government is paying you to lose money on a house. This trick does two things. First, it makes investors buy houses not to live in, but as a tax-saving machine. Second, it forces young families who just want a home to compete with rich investors who are playing a tax game. The young family loses every time. This system turns homes into financial weapons. And here is the worst part. Both major political parties, Labor and Liberal, refuse to touch it. Why? Because everyone who already owns a house, the people who vote, loves this system. They are getting rich from it. To stop this system would mean house prices might fall, and no politician is brave enough to do that. They are trapped. They have chosen to sacrifice the young to protect the wealth of the old. This has created a nation built on debt, the most dangerous debt in the world. Because house prices are so high, Australians must borrow more money than almost anyone else on earth.
Household debt is at a record high, while the interest rate is at an all-time low. 1 in 4 mortgaged households is already in stress.
Australia's household debt is one of the highest in the developed world. For years, it has been over 200% of disposable income. This is a simple but terrifying number. It means for every $1,000 a family earns, after tax, they owe the bank $2,000. This is much, much higher than in the US or Japan. It means the average Australian family is trapped. When interest rates go up, their life stops. Today, it is normal for a family to spend 30%, 40%, or even 50% of their entire income just on their mortgage payment. This is called mortgage stress. But for millions, it is no longer stress. It is panic. It means no money for savings, no money for children, no money for emergencies. You do not own the house. The house and the bank own you. This entire mess, the debt, the lack of homes, all of it rests on one fragile idea, that Australia is rich. But what if that wealth is just an illusion?
Of the G20 summit in Indonesia in November that indicated relations between Australia and China were out of the diplomatic deep freeze.
This brings us to the next reason, the fragile economy. Australia looks rich, but its economy is dangerously simple. It is built on three things: iron ore, coal, and natural gas. For decades, Australia has made billions by selling these resources, mostly to China. They are the lucky country because they found valuable rocks in the ground, but this kind of wealth is a trap. First, it makes the entire country dependent on China's economy and world resource prices. Second, these industries do not create many jobs. They make a few people very, very rich, but they don't create a large, skilled middle class. Australia is brilliant at ideas. The technology for Wi-Fi, it came from Australia. But the country is terrible at building industries from those ideas. The ideas are sold, and the factories are built overseas. This leaves a huge gap. Young people are left with service jobs that don't pay enough, while they stare at house prices that are rising as fast as in San Francisco or London. It is the worst of all worlds, a resource-addicted economy with a Silicon Valley housing problem. This brings us to the final, most important reason: the politics. We have a system where houses are unaffordable. We cannot build more, and our jobs don't pay enough. This is a 10-alarm fire. So, where is the government? Why aren't they fixing this? Here is the darkest truth of all. They cannot fix it. They are trapped.
Prime Minister, will your plans really see a young couple on an average wage be able to afford to buy a home if prices keep rising the way they are?
Yes, they will, Deb, for a range of reasons, one of which.
In Australia, any politician who actually makes house prices fall is committing political suicide. Why? Because millions of Australians, the middle class, the older voters, own those houses. Their wealth is their house. To lower prices would be to wipe out the savings of an entire generation of voters. So, the government does nothing. They talk about helping first-time buyers. They talk about building more homes. But they will never, ever try to make prices go down. They have chosen to protect the assets of the people who already own by sacrificing the future of the people who do not. The social contract, work hard and you will succeed, is broken. This is the quiet collapse. It's not a 2008-style crash. The prices don't fall. Instead, the people break. The nurses sleep in cars, the young are locked out, and the society breaks from the inside. This problem is not just in Australia. To see which country is next, click the video on the screen now. I'll see you there.